I thought, what a great concept to just, if we could start this over, what we would do differently.
So today I'm joined by Dana Vogelmeier. Dana is one of our original 13 speakers that we have lined up. Dana owns Vogelmeier Consulting. And if you're looking to follow her on Twitter, she's at Dana Vogue. So at DANAVOG. So Dana, welcome to our DisruptHR chat and welcome to our quick discussion. So if you want to share a little bit more about yourself and anything I left out about you, please do so now.
Thank you, John. Yes, I'm very excited about DisruptHR when we're actually able to do it. But I think in preparation, this is a great way for everybody to learn a little bit more about the speakers that maybe we wouldn't have had before, and also a little bit more about the sponsors that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So there's a silver lining in all of this,
Yeah, thank you, Dana.
My organization, we help leaders and teams who have a lot of issues going on. And those issues could be things like turnover, conflict, maybe they have some complacency and some accountability issues, just can't get everybody kind of moving with some momentum to be super productive and also happy in the work environment. So I help leaders create a better work environment. And that's not about processes, it's about people and the signage and all of the culture pieces that, how we do things around here. So I love doing that and being able to help create places where people like to go to work.
Yeah, awesome. Great work. And I know that's terribly important. We've worked really tirelessly hard on our culture, and maintaining that is an everyday task. One that we hold near and dear to our heart. And DisruptHR has created a culture in and of itself. And I give a lot of credit to Jen McGlure and the founders for establishing such a unique and disruptive way for HR and the community to get together. So as you've been displaced into your home office, as I assume that's where you're at, Dana, I'm just curious, as it relates to your current surroundings, who's keeping you company? Who are your air quote coworkers in your new home office?
Yes. So I always work from home, except that I'm out a lot and I travel a lot. So part of this is not all that different, except that now my husband is working from home. So he has his own office set up. My mom lives with us. So she has sort of the whole upstairs as her little, apartment, if you will. So she's up there. And then I have my little dog who's always with me, and she has a little bed right here by my desk. So she's laying there sleeping.
What's your dog's name?
Ivy.
Ivy? What kind of dog is Ivy?
She's a miniature dachshund.
Oh, cool.
So she's just 10 pounds. She's real tiny.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've heard a lot of spouse, and we actually talked about this earlier about kind of remote work and the adjustment to it. I've seen a lot of spouses have to work in the same office, and I think that worked temporarily, and then I was curious to see who ended up keeping the office and who ended up being relegated into the bedroom or the basement. So glad that you and your husband have found a place to coexist in your work, and good for you for housing and taking care of your mom. That's really important. So. Yeah,
it works for all of us, so that's pretty great.
Yeah, fantastic. So as it relates to your firm, so what is it that makes you do what you do? What's your passion for providing those unique services to leadership, to companies and their leadership, about maintaining a great culture and dealing with the issues that they face?
I'm glad you asked that question, John. So I worked 33 years in a Fortune 50 organization, had a wonderful career and really enjoyed it, but I had an opportunity to leave in 2018 with an early buyout through a restructure. And the timing was great because I knew I was going to be heading out pretty soon anyway to start out on my own. But through those different jobs that I had, different departments, I moved across the country. I had some wonderful leaders and some wonderful teams at times, but I also had my, couple of bad apples, that many of us have. And for me personally, having those experiences, one in particular that I really struggled going to work, and it was difficult for me because I loved my job. I just struggled with the leader in particular. And when I had the opportunity to move into another role, that worked out for me. I just felt like I needed to distance myself from the situation. It was just too much too big of a hurdle to drive in every day. So I really at that time started reflecting on, because like I said, I'd had all these great experiences, and then I had this one that was like hitting a brick wall. And I just started doing some research and reflecting on engagement, employee engagement, leadership behaviors, and what creates a great environment and what creates an environment that, people don't do what they're supposed to do. And really, as we know this intuitively too, that the leader does set the tone. But a lot of times, there's these unique dynamics that influence whether or not it's a great environment, like what's tolerated and what maybe shouldn't be, or what's unique and okay because it works for that company, but it might not work in another company. So I really just kind of dove in, and then I got a certification as a workplace culture strategist and started helping others who knew they needed something but just didn't know what. And sometimes it helps to have that kind of outside person come in and just observe, ask some questions, and make some recommendations of how you could improve upon it. But I really had this like strong draw, if you will, to like create a world where people don't dread driving to work. We work 40 or 50 years in our lifetimes. It's 2/3 of our lives. And if we dread driving in every day, like in my experience, I felt like I was aging. I got depressed. I gained weight. It really had an effect on me. And I just don't want other people to go through that.
So do you mind, again, I don't want to give away the secret sauce because I know you have a consulting firm, and I'm sure you're doing a lot of this education pro bono and supporting the community during these unique times. But I guess I have two questions, and one as a follow-up to what you shared. How valuable was that corporate experience to allow you to provide better perspective as a consultant? Because I see that having a consulting firm myself, some of our best consultants are those that have been practical HR, payroll, live the day in the life so they can have empathy. And then without giving too much of the secret sauce away, like what is it that allows you to make the changes inside of an organization, to take them from a place where people don't want to go and over time changing it to a place where they look forward to getting up on Mondays and going to work?
Mm-hmm. So your first question about having had the experience, invaluable, because again, 33 years. So, when I had the one where I felt like I, had hit this wall, I started reflecting back on all of my other ones that had been great and kind of maybe taken for granted, assuming that all of them would be great. And then really kind of scrutinizing anyone I had after that, which is how I knew I was going to start my own organization, my own company. But having had that experience, and also there was definitely a learning culture in that organization. So I had wonderful opportunities to go to things, and I'm a learner by nature anyway. So I feel like I couldn't be positioned to do what I do having not had those experiences. I know how it felt when it was great, and I know how it felt when it was not good. So I draw on that a lot. And then when I go in and work with organizations, a lot of times I like to start with some kind of a discovery session, and that's really about, why did you ask me here? What is it that you're seeing or feeling or sensing? Sometimes you can't point at it, but other times you can say, my attrition has gone up 50% in the last year or something. There might be some hard numbers, but sometimes it's just an instinct. Or, one person that had reached out to me said, we knew each other too, but he said, I know something is wrong, I just don't know what. And I was like, good to listen to your instincts, right? And he was right. And I went in and actually did some work with them over the course of about 9 months, and just had a few different meetings kind of here and there initially, and asking some questions and observing, and then kind of giving him some, I think you might need to have some conversations here and there and ask a little more. And then let's go in and do this learning opportunity. Because sometimes, planting the seeds and then getting people just to think differently, especially what they're bringing to the table. Are you bringing productive thoughts, solutions, work issues, or are you bringing something less desirable? And so are you part of the problem? But
Sure.
they kind of come there on their own a lot of times. And when they don't, sometimes the organization just isn't the right company for that person. It might be great for 100 other people, but not every person is for every company. And so sometimes you have to have that hard conversation, and accountability is a big piece in it. So if the leaders themselves are not having those conversations with people, that needs to happen. So that's why I say sometimes it's easier for an outside person to come in and,
give it out. You don't have a bias. You don't have, in essence, skin in the game. You're not getting paid directly, or you don't own the place, so you can dig in a little. It sounds like from your discovery process, you're doing a lot of digging in and trying to get to the root cause, like trying to find the spider, so to speak, in the web of the issues that are going on. So I certainly can appreciate that and understand. So, well, thank you for sharing about yourself and your background and who you are and your family at home, and all the best, and continued staying safe and staying in the work from home. And that being said, obviously we're in very unique times, unprecedented for many, if not all, of the citizens of the world. And one of the things that I'm trying to do the best I can is to look forward as much as possible. And we've been redirected into this this day, this moment, this hour, as things have changed so rapidly for many in the last 3 weeks, and obviously in a grave way for many families. And I know it's been impacted us in Ohio. We see a lot of significant impact in New York and in California and in Washington. So I'm just curious, Dana, if as you've gone through this experience the last few weeks, what's the personal impact to you and any family members or people that you may know?
So our biggest worry is that we have a daughter that lives in New York City.
Oh boy, okay.
And so as all of that was really starting to bubble up, we were having conversations about whether she should leave. And, I think her initial reaction was, we'll be okay. And then, it kept getting worse and worse and worse. Long story short, she's still there. She is quarantined. She rarely goes out except to take the dog out. And she said, I don't really go out for anything else. They had stocked up on food and paper products and everything. So she said, I'm probably good for at least another 3 weeks to not have to leave, because she gets perishable items delivered. And so they just wipe them down and everything. But that's pretty typical there. So that's my biggest worry more than anything. Everything else has been fine here.
Yeah, I'll keep her in my thoughts and prayers. Yeah, I know that's the unfortunately the epicenter right now in our country, and very unique. So has there, and again, as I look forward, and one of the most unique things when we were asked about DisruptHR Columbus is, well, when are you going to have the event? And obviously we can't predict the future and don't know what's going to come, but I'm hopeful, right, for those of us that go through this experience, that we can find something new that we learned as we were humbled relative to staying at home, having to be incredibly conscientious of our well-being, maybe slowing down a bit. So I'm just curious of any experiences that you've had personally that were different as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, and then the requirements that the state, local, and federal government has made of people staying home and not being around others. So
I wouldn't say and my experiences are anything unusual. Pretty much like others, a lot of my meetings have moved online. So whether they're more social or community service oriented or work oriented, everything's moved online. So thank goodness for Zoom and Skype and WebEx. I had a class I was supposed to be teaching in New York City that was supposed to start April 2nd, and we moved it online. So, and we're doing that through WebEx. that's probably, my biggest changes have just been adapting in that way.
Because
So
you mentioned
nothing really
before,
unusual.
you work from home originally, or at least in your consulting practice, but a lot of travel out of the office travel, which
Yeah.
has been for me the same unique change. When you do go out, it feels like a different experience now, right? When you do go to the grocery store for a pickup or have to drop something off at the post office, right? It's just totally different. But all right, well, thank you for sharing that, and continued safety and well-being and patience throughout these unique times. So as this is a forum that's meant for the HR community, Dana, I'm just curious as to things for you personally from a strategy standpoint within your business, or suggestions you might be making to your clients as it relates to what they should be doing as they consider the days, the weeks, the months ahead during COVID.
Mm-hmm. A lot of checking in with people. And, I think, the organizations who are doing the best job at it will do things like having touch-ins one-on-one, but also creating a sense of community and a different sense of community in the meetings, like their team meetings. Also adding some levity to those, because it is such a hard time and people are anxious about it. So like I created 10 fun things to do that are free in an online meeting like this, just to create ways to add some levity. But also I think if they're able to, if organizations can provide, like some big companies who have employee resource groups can have some kind of counseling or therapy options for people who are really struggling with the isolation and the unknown, and maybe had anxiety before, and now this is thrown on top of it. So those kinds of things, just a real kind of high touch during this time, because it is easy to become distant. So
Sure.
checking in a lot, I think, is really important.
A lot of checking in, a lot of community is what I'm hearing you share. I think those are critically important. And it is interesting how when you're stressed or in this unique time, laughs feel different. And so having some levity and some moments like that, I think are paramountly important. Is there anything in particular that you could share with the HR professional above and beyond that, or ways that they can go about doing that within their organization that may have a positive impact on ways to create that community or one-on-one touch bases? I know you mentioned those 10 tips, but anything in particular for HR?
So I think, it kind of depends on the organization itself and what kind of internal resources they already have. Because if they do have the resource groups, those are a good way to create some community and people to talk to one another. If they don't, then it really needs to be with the leader, the supervisor, manager, director, vice president, whatever the title is, to be modeling and touching base with everyone and asking what they need. And if they're okay, is everybody in your family okay? Is there anything you all need? I mentioned before, it doesn't hit everybody in the same way. And so some people, I have a good friend who said, this is an introvert's dream. So for her, she's like, I'm good. But other people really have a lot of anxiety about not being able to get out and do all the things they could do before. So maybe there's things they can do within their community that still are okay under the guidelines, and just ways to check in. I've seen some of the other ideas too, like on TV, I saw that a community was putting up a green sign, like a green construction paper, if they were good, or red if they needed something. And so internally, maybe there'd be a method to do something of that nature that's still anonymous. So if somebody needed something, they could somehow put up a red sign to say, I really need to talk to somebody today. I think that'll go a long way. And you see so many great companies really stepping up locally and globally, doing some wonderful things to help in this time. And I think those companies are really going to be seen as some of the saviors and great places to work because of what they've done.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Well, I know the reason why we're on this webcast is you are one of our speakers for DisruptHR Columbus. I'm calling them the original 13, OG 13 is what we branded that group. And we're super optimistic that we'll maintain those 13 speakers. And I know our charge, once we schedule the date, is to make sure it works for the community as well as then the speakers and sponsors. But maybe as we end our time together, Dana, which I've enjoyed quite a bit and appreciated your insights, tell me a little bit about your experience with Disrupt HR and then your enthusiasm for what's ahead for Columbus in particular.
So I first heard about Disrupt HR from somebody that's at like an outplacement source group company, and he was writing a book and he wanted different examples of people who had left kind of late career. And so I had worked with him a little bit on that, and he had done a Disrupt HR speech. And so he had the attachment at the bottom of his email. So I watched it and I was like, that's really cool. So it caused me also to kind of watch some other ones and just get some ideas, because they're, some of them are obviously hysterical. And then, you know, some of them I just so relate to just things that I had experienced inside my own corporate career, and then things I still hear outside. But I thought, what a great concept to just, you know, if we could start this over, what we would do differently. So I heard it was coming to Columbus through my friend Kara North, who's also a speaker. And she said, you should think about applying for this. So she's the one that kind of gave me the heads up, and it was great. I was happy that we were both selected to be part of the OG 13.
Nice. And I won't kill your thunder, because I know it may be part of your presentation, and I'm a suspenseful kind of guy. So in just for full disclosure for those listening, we had kind of a vetting out process for the speaker finalist, and Dana did share a very interesting story she told me about content that she planned to share, which she's the look on her face right now, I don't know if she remembers what she told me, but I remember it vividly. And it was about an employee getting an old boss back for maybe the way that boss treated that employee, and it was a stinker. I'll just put it that way.
Yes, it was.
Yes. So.
Yeah, I love that story, and it's a true story. So it makes you think, what else is out there?
Got to be careful how you treat people.
That's right.
Exactly right. So. Well, Dana, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Continued safe wishes and patience and well-being, and I'll keep your daughter in my thoughts and prayers to continue her vigilance with staying in, and for all those around the country and the world as we go through this. So,
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
You got it.
You too.
Yeah, thank you. With that said, we'll sign off for now, and we'll see you next time.